Okay, cool. So anyway, so if you would like to give the information, you can use the meanwhile chat window. So let me start it and let me continue that. Yeah, which I have seen this most of the people who joined here from already some technology which you have been working. That's really great. Whether that is a middleware or whether that is a storage admin or a system admin. Yeah, so so this demo, whatever we are going to talk, it definitely that is going to helping that what is the kind of the role we are going to perform this as a DevOps engineer. But for the timing, yes, the which you have been working that on which the stream doesn't matter that, but just have the patience to understand it from the scratch. Yes, like first my demos how that would be is the first we are going to talk it about the process. Yeah, as a DevOps engineer, if you would like to know that exact the roles and responsibilities and what is the kind of operations we are going to perform it or development activities we are going to perform it. If you would like to know that, the first which we should know the process. Yeah, today mostly I'm going to talk it about the process. The maybe if you're already working that in the process model, so maybe that's yes which we have this which you need to have the little bit patience, but the tomorrow actual we are going to talk it what exactly the DevOps and the DevOps kind of the role. Yeah, 2 days we are going to have this demo. So to understand exactly the what we are going to cover it, and as well as before covering that, we should know that what is the kind of the role we are going to perform it. Yeah, what is exactly the DevOps and why that's the DevOps or team is required in the current projects. And if that's a team is looking at, yes, what are the expectations from the DevOps engineer? So those expectations to, yes, the reach it, yes, what we need to do that. Yes, these are all the anyway we are going to talk it in the demo section. But yes, have that some patience today about the process model to understand it. And then we go for this, what is exactly the DevOps? So are you getting my points? Is it clear or any voice disturbance or any mic disturbance? Yes, please let me know that. So is it clear? Are you good to continue like this? This is just kind of the mic testing. So are you okay with that? Are you comfortable? So is a chat window. Please quickly just type that yes, 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 yes or no. So that would be helpful for me to understand about your response. Good. Good response. I see that. Okay, good. Let me continue. Yes, yes, before starting about that, as we are understanding today, we are going to talk about that, understanding the process. And tomorrow we are going to start about that, what exactly the DevOps. But yeah, the before understanding the process model and everything. So what is this IT about it, especially? So what are the common use cases that's? Yes, if you just talk it about it, the software industry, yes, we are, we are working this in the projects, but in the project, what we are going to do this is either website hosting or website implementation, or in the site industry, yes, mobile application implementation or social website applications or gaming application implementations or internal IT application hostings. Yeah, content delivery kind of that application that is like Netflix or yeah, Amazon Prime or media. Yes, media distribution kind of application. Yes, in the IT industry, from that IT provider, if we see this the any service, that service is belong to that. So any kind of this kind of that one of the work, right? Yes, either once you join to the practice, you are working for that application management or mobile application or internal IT applications or the content delivery management. So, and managing about it is the data processing or analytics applications management and storages, backups and disaster recoveries, and as well as managing about that environments. Yes, these are all the use cases of that IT. Yes, why does the IT required is, yes, like to manage about all these applications. Yes, whenever we are working that IT, definitely one of, we are going to play this in one of the use case. Whatever the kind of that use case, that is on the base of the project, it is going to change it. But yes, we are working in that IT industry is nothing but, yes, one of the use case that you are going to work at. But if we talk it about this, either website application or social site application, that is yeah, e-commerce application, mobile application, or gaming application. First of all, what are the things that is required to run that application? Yeah, let me talk it that there's some keywords to understand it about that. Yes, if you are the new to that like IT, yes, to understand that. Yeah, if you are hosting that any application, the first of all, that application to run it, yes, networks required, right? Yeah, what are the basic resources? If you are hosting that application, what are the basic resources that is required? Networking, storages, and then like which we need to have that CPUs. That's we can say that the virtual machines or the servers, and then databases. Yeah, so these are all some basic resources that's required. But all these resources, what do we call that is infrastructure. Yes, any the what is the kind of application I'm not going to talk it. Whether that is mobile application, whether that is social networking application, or whether that is like analytics application. So yes, any application if you just talk it in the IT industry, the first of all these are all the basic resources required. Infra layer we will call it that. But once that infra is ready, suppose let's take this example like a Gmail kind of that application. Yes, that application we are accessing is nothing but backend that application related networks have been set up that throughout globally to access it, and storages have been defined, and that application is running on the servers which have been defined on the virtualization layers. Yeah, basic thing is the infra required. But infra is it enough? Yes, to run that application, infra is not enough. So we need to have this the platform layer. So what is it, the platform exactly? Suppose this once this infra is ready, that application, whatever we are hosting on this infra layer, that should be implemented by using this one of the programming language, right? Yes, programming language is required. So that could be Java or .NET or Python or Node.js or Ruby language. Doesn't matter that. Whatever the programming language they are going to take it. So that is the octets they are going to decide it. But yes, they need to use it one of the programming language. But that programming language to run it, the required platform. If it is a Java application, Java environment has to be set up that with the databases. Or if it's the .NET based application, yes, the .NET platform has to be set up that. Or if it is a Python platform, yes, like before running that the application. So once this infra is ready, on that infra we go for that setting the platform. So maybe we are working with that, yes, the Java setup, Python, or on the base of that application. We will come back to that. But these are all the layers which we should know that. Yes, we are going to work with that. In the infra is nothing but, yes, we are supporting for that the application of the projects, but the projects are going to use it internally infra layers. So whenever I use the keyword infra, so next onwards you should remember it. Yes, that contains about the networks, storages, servers, virtualization softwares which we are using to manage it all these servers. And once this infra is ready, then we need to talk. Then we need to set up the platform. That is database, the backend models point of view. Not only the database servers, here's the backend like the reporting servers, the application to run it. Yes, what all that the softwares that is required. Yes, all that has to be set up that here. Once the platform is ready, the finally we go for that deploying or hosting that application. And application data. Data is also very, very important. So data normally which we use it in the storages, that is a database which we have, that file based storage which we have, NoSQL based storages which we have. But somewhere data has to be managed and with that application. So application, who will implement it? That is developers, they give it that. So developers, that's application, whatever that they have given that application to host it. Yes, infra is required. Then to run that application, the platform is required. Once the platform is available, then we can host that application and we can run that application. So this one we can say that the app layer or data layer. So these are the three layers, the at least which we have that to run it, the application, whether that is gaming or mobile or so whatever that kind of application. I'm not talking about it, but so the basic resources to run that application, infra is required, platform is required, and app layer is required. If we just conclude all these layers applying to that application, yes, first networks and storage has to be set up that. So the private networks, public networks, amount of the storage, performance of the storage, throughput of the storage. There are some points that will be considered. So once the network has been defined, then yes, that's a hardware resources taking about it. And all that hardware, so that is a sharing, I mean, like virtualization, virtualization using that and sharing that the hardware resources. And finally, the installing about that the OS layers, that is Windows operating system or Linux or the Unix operating system. So once this OS layers are ready, then we go for setting up that. If it's a Java based application, Java servers, yeah, Java installation, then servers management, that is database management backend. So all that will be set up that. This is the platform layer. And once the platform layer is ready, then we go for that deploying that application on these layers. Yeah, finally, if you conclude that, so if you are going to learn it about that cloud platforms or if you are going to work with the DevOps engineer, so all these important keywords that is required. What are the main keywords that we are learning? Infra layer, platform layer, data layer, or application layer, or software layer, which we can say that. Is it clear about this one? Are you getting the keywords? Are you following the points, everyone? Okay, fine, good. Yeah, finally, so whenever we are working with this, that's in the infrastructure or any project you are working is nothing but these are all the layers which we should know that. Yeah, application you are managing or application you are supporting, whether that is in this middleware or the backend, or yes, you are working in the project is nothing but yes, this application contains all these layers. But some layers we directly interact with, and some layers we don't have the full control on it. That is on the base of that's the kind of the role which you are performing that. That's will come back. Okay, now we understand application to host it, infra is required, platform is required, and finally application which is implemented by the developers and with the data that is required. But what's happening that? And how do we manage it all these things in the project, in the process? Yeah, almost all work, whatever we are doing in this real time, that work which will be done as a project, right? Yes, if you're doing the support activities or maintenance activities or development activities or testing activities, so which team member doesn't matter that. So if you're working that, I mean, yes, if you're performing that any activity, so for in this IT service companies, that's almost all the work that's done as a project. But a project, whenever we talk it, so that is having some life cycle, right? Yes, each and every project, if we just talk it, that a project is having the planning model, plan, execution. Yes, first we need to plan it. Yes, what are the modules that is required to release it? That module, how much time it is going to take it? What are the resources that is required? Yes, all that has to be identified first. So once the plan is done, then it has to come to that execution. So that is implementation. Yes, as per the plan, continuing that, yes, that's functionality implementation or infra management that should be executed. And once it has been executed, but we need to inspect it, right? Yes, we need to bring the quality of the application. That is inspecting model. So you are performing any testing activities, nothing but yes, you are trying to bring that quality of that, the work which you are doing that. And finally, if everything is okay, then get that approval. That is acceptance model. So these are all the like important life cycles that we have this in the project. Yes, any work which you are doing in the infra, that's going to have a project. Project is having that the important phases, that is a planning model, executing model, inspecting model, acceptance model. Yes, quick feedbacks. But who will do that? All these models. Who will execute this the project? Who will like manage the project? Management team, right? Yes, managers coming into the picture, and they are going to use it some methodologies. Yeah, management has become a practice and there are many methods. Yes, so many methodologies are available and tools to manage the project. But management team, they are using any methodology to execute it all these the phases in the process. Phases in the process. What is that objective? End of the day, management team should make sure about it. Whatever we have committed to the client, on time delivery and on budget completing the project, right? So this is the objective. Yes, management team, so they are going to execute it all these phases in the process model using that different methodologies and the tools with that objective that is delivered on time, whatever we have committed to the client and with on budget. Yes, whatever the budget it has been planned, within that budget it should be completed the projects. Yeah, so this is the main objective. But here what we're trying to understand is phases of the process model. That is one thing. Any project you are working is nothing but that contains different phases. But all these phases, how to manage it? Methodologies are available in the market. But any methodology which we are applying to the project is nothing but what is that objective of that the end of the day is delivered on time and on budget. So these are all the important things. Yeah, before understanding the suddenly why this DevOps is playing that important role in the current market, we go for the some history, how the projects were managing that, the before, that is 15 to 20 years, yeah, the 25 years back, we will talk it that what exactly is happening that. Then latest, what is the model or methodology that management team they are applying that to achieve this objective, delivered on time and on budget. So what is that like a traditional methodology, the before? So nowadays we have this the latest methodologies, but before if we talk it that, what was the methodology they were using this is? So waterfall approach. Why did the DevOps has come into the market? Yeah, before they were facing some issues, some challenges in the project. Whenever they're doing that all these phases with this objective. So one of the methodology they were using waterfall, but waterfall they were facing so many issues. But what is this waterfall? Know about it. Yes, we should know it. As a DevOps engineer, we should know the process model. But what is this waterfall model and how that, I mean, what are the main important phases in the process model and what are the challenges? Why it was failed, this waterfall methodology? And what is the latest methodology that has been introduced to the projects? So that's we try to understand it. So now we are going to understand some points about the waterfall model. So what is this waterfall? What are the phases are available? Suppose here let's take it that's as example point of view, we'll try to understand it. Suppose Gmail application. So I mean that is not there, just thinking about it for the timing. As Google team, they are planning to implement the Gmail application. We know that Gmail, all that's functionality. That's why I have taken that example. Yeah, Gmail application is planning. I mean that is I mean the Google team is planning to implement it, and they have approached that some XYZ company like a TCS or the Infosys. Some companies they have approached. But Google team, so whenever they are saying about it that the Gmail application is required, first they need to, what is the phase that we are expecting? First, the Google team, they need to give the complete requirements, right? Yeah, what is the first phase we are expecting? This once the proposal is accepted between Google team and yes, like TCS team. So what is the first phase we are expecting is requirements. Yes, there are the stages and the teams which we should know in the process. That is very, very important. We should know the process, and in the process which are all the teams are involving, and each team the roles and responsibility. If you have the clarity, then DevOps we can work it as simple as it is. The process is very, very important. Tools we can learn it later, but you are learning any tool is nothing but that is belong to that one of the process model. Yeah, in the waterfall approach, first is the requirements. Requirements is what are the functionalities that is required in that application that will be collected as a document. But which team is involving here? Anyone? Requirements, who will gather it? Which team is going to participate in that? Is it development team, is it going to involve in that? Are testing engineers, are they going to involve it? Are operations engineers, are they going to involve it? So which team is going to work it?
Architects.
Yeah, we see some messages. No, that is not exactly the development team. So first initial, yes, the developer, they don't directly communicate with the client. Yes, initial phase. So to collect that all the requirements, analysts comes into the picture. Who are all the functionality domain experts? So that team come into the picture. Yes, the analysts, they are going to communicate with the client. What exactly the client is expecting, that's everything that will be collected. So in the waterfall approach, this was a long duration, like 1 month, 2 months. So they were planning about it. And this team, so analyst team, they are going to communicate with the Google team to collect that. What are the exact functionality that is required to implement that application? So this the team is involving that. That is some specific duration on the base of the project. And once this team role is done, next, what is the phase that is going to have it? What is the next stage? Yeah, once requirements are ready. So what are the requirements we have in the Gmail application? Sign up option, the new account you can create it, sign in option if it is already existing. Then once you sign in, then we have that left side all the menu options like inbox, compose mail, spam, trash. There are the different functionalities of that application. We will call it as functionalities. Each button you are clicking is nothing but Yes, you are performing some functionality from that application. Okay, the first initially the requirements team, so that is requirements phase, that is business analyst comes into the picture and they are going to communicate with the client and they collect that all the details and they document it. Once this is ready, then that comes into that designing phase. So what is the next phase? Designing. Yes, as the requirements, the once it has been collected as a requirements point of view, so architects are coming into the picture and they are going to do the capacity analysis. So how many servers that is required, so how many users are going to access it per hour based or per minute based, and what is the capacity of this network's bandwidth that is required, what are the storage that is required. So everything that is that designed by that, the octets comes into the picture, infra octets. But not only the system design, system is infra as we're talking about it, networks, storages, the CPUs capacities and databases. So these are all the things that will be decided. But infra only is not enough to implement that application. Platform is also required, right? That is application layer. Is it required to use it the Java or is it required to use it the .NET? So the frameworks, they decide about that. The on the base of the functionality, they said about that. What are the ready-made frameworks are available in which programming language, and they come up with that deciding about the programming. Is it required the Java or .NET or the Python or Node.js or the Ruby language? So that is another octets which are coming into the picture. That is application side. That is a program octets. Like if it is Java GT, Java octets come into the picture. So once that requirements is done, infra to set up for this application on the base of this requirements and the number of users are going to access it. So what is the load on that application? What is the backup and recovery mechanisms? All that will be decided by that infra octets. And as well as at the same time, that application side, application data management point of view, the octets come into the picture. So this team is going to work it like some specific duration, the 1 month, 1.5 month on the base of this the requirement in the waterfall approach. There are the one by one stage, one after another one, which are having the longer durations. Yeah, infra teams, they are going to, I mean, architecture teams, they are going to prepare that some design documents, high level designing, low level designing, architecture diagrams, the how many servers required, what is the networks that is required, private networks, public networks, everything that comes into the designing phase. But once design is done, but it has to be implemented, right? Yeah, up to these phases, if we just talk it, this is the most of that into the document oriented. Yeah, preparing that user stories, I mean that's requirements documents, and here like preparing about it high level, low level designing. So these are all like designing. Here it is not required any servers for them and it is not required any kind of network and storages. But next phase what we're expecting is implementation. Yeah, converting about this design document, programming level, high level programming, low level programming, and database architecture point of view, how many tables, what are the, I mean, the relations of those tables that is required. So everything that is decided in the design phase, but that has to be converted into that programming. But who will work it on that? Yes, who will implement the code? Which team is working here? Here actually the developers coming into the picture, right? Yeah, we can say this BA team also. Yeah, business analyst team. Yeah, so now in this phase, coding phase, which team is coming to the picture is developers are coming into the picture. Yeah, if it is a Java JT based application, Java JT developers. Or is a full stack developers, or if it is the .NET developers. Yes, on the basis of this programming model which they have decided for this application functionality to implement it, that developers comes into the picture. But here the point is, developers, if they are going to use that some systems to implement the functionality, is nothing but backend infra is required, right? Servers required for them or not? Yes, they need to have the systems. So if the developer has joined to the project is nothing but, yes, we need to allocate that one system to him. You are allocating the system is nothing but some storage, some like networks that is required, and some CPU capacity is required on the base of this development system. That means backend operation engineers also working with that, who are setting up the infra for the development team. Yeah, so here the two teams working that. So we say that the developers, they are working on that coding implementation, that is development. But backend developers, whatever the infra that is required, that is provided by that operations engineers. So two teams working in this environment. Okay, coding has been implemented. That means the functionality they are understanding, the development team, they are understanding these design documents and they are converting into the program. But so whatever that they are implementing, that they need to test it, right? If I'm the developer, if I'm working on that, suppose sign in page of the Gmail, I'm implementing that sign in page or sign up page. To test it, that functionality, I need to have the testing environments also, right? Test cases, I need to implement it myself. But what do we call those test cases? So whenever I'm implementing, if I'm the developer, whenever I'm implementing the functionality, I need to run unit test cases. Yes, that's my module, whatever I'm implementing. I need to thoroughly test it. That's we will say that unit testing. But not only my module. So we have this 10 developers. All the 10 developers, they are working for the same project. But entire project integration also we need to test it. Integration test cases. Yeah, so once this implementation is done, that's implementation, is it working successfully or not? And whatever the integration I'm doing that with other developers, I need to have the testing environment where I can run it my unit test cases and integration test cases. So here, which teams that's going to helping that? So developers working, and once the development team is okay, they are okay with that functionality, then the testing team is also coming with that with their test cases. Yes, if the TCS team, the TCS, so in that project, they are going to manage the separate testing team. What are the developers they are implementing? So that is thoroughly to test it all the use cases and to bring the quality of the developers work. So here are two teams. So in the testing environments, yeah, developers, they are working that's on their testing side, and once they confirm it, then actual testing team, they are coming up with that. So all this functionality as expected, it is working it or not. But back in one more team, we should not forget that if the developers, they are using the developer systems or testing team, so the testing servers you are managing is nothing but operations engineers are working that, who are setting up that the servers, testing servers, right? Are getting the points of that the process model, and in that process model the stages, and each stage the teams, which teams are involving that. Yeah, unit and integration test cases to run it. Yes, testing servers that is required. So we have those developer side testing, and as well as testing team also, they do the testing. Once that is done, then we have another level of that testing, that is system level testing. This side here we can say functionality testing. So once the functionality testing is done, but that is not enough, non-functionality testing. So that is the load testing of that application. Suppose 1 lakh users are going to access this application. But 1 lakh users are accessing this in the real time. How the servers are behaving that? What is the capacity of the server that is required? Is it required that 32 GB capacity of the server? Or is it required the 64 RAM capacity? Or is it more than that? On the basis of the processing and the data, yes, non-functionality testing, that's environments required. But here this environment has to be set up, but which team is going to work it the mostly? Here it is testing teams. They are going to use it some tools like load runner, and they are going to evaluate it complete non-functionality testing. So if the system testing is done and if it has been approved, then which team, what is the next phase that we are expecting is acceptance testing. Now the client, whatever he has given us requirements, so he is coming that and he is going to test it. Whatever I have given, that is implemented and as expected it is working it or not. Now the client side, he is going to testing that. We can call it as a UAT environment, user accept testing environment. But to test it, yes, they need to have the separate environment. That means separate servers here. And whatever that application which has been implemented, that has to be hosted here. But which team is going to mainly playing the role? That is client side. What are the functionality they have given that? They are verifying here. As expected, it is working or not. That's we'll say that pre-prod environment or UAT environment. That is on the base of the client. We will call it about the environments. And once, yes, as he has tested as the requirements point of, if it is working as expected, if he accepts it, then which will be promoted to the finally to the production environment or live environment. Production environment or live environment. Live environment in the sense about our Google team customers. We are the Google team customer, right? Gmail account you have is nothing but you are one of the customer to the Google team. Yes, we are going to access this application. So where we are accessing this is that application is running on the live environment, or we can call it as a production environment. But which team is managing that here? Yes, here that's operation engineers are coming into the picture with their objectives. Like this environment should be always the 24/7 availability. And if something failure is happened, what is the time you are taking that to recovery of it? And how you are planning that the disaster recoveries, how you are planning about the backups, how you are planning about the security of this application. With all these objectives, these operation engineers are working that in the live environment. So finally, if we conclude that the main environment is, yeah, so requirement, system design, program design, these are all like a document oriented. So we use it, yes, like so this analyst teams or architect teams, they use it about that. The architecture, the softwares. So that's the UML kind of flowchart kind of. Yes, they design about it, system designing and programming design. And once that is done, next comes into the picture. Developers, they work it on that implementing the code. But the developers that is required, development environment and develop servers, development machines. That means backend operation engineers are working that, who are supporting the development team. And once development is done, then to run it, that's the code which has been implemented. Yes, we need to have the separate testing servers, testing environments. But this testing environment, which teams are going to use it? Yes, developers and the testing teams, they are going to use it that. But to set up these testing environment servers, yes, operation engineers are required who are going to manage that infra for these testing servers. So once it is accepted, now next the change is moved to this non-functionality environment, that is system testing environment. But here also operation engineers, they are going to work it to set up that the servers which are required for load testings or stress testing. or performance testing. But here, which team that's mainly involving, that is a testing team, but backend operation engineers are also working that. Developer, they don't have this much interaction in this, but if some issue is there, then which that issue which will be redirected to that developers, and developer they fix it, and which will be moved to this in the next phases. So once this phase has been accepted, then it will be intimated to the client, and the client is going to take this application change and he is going to run in his servers, and he is going to test it whether that is working it or not as expected. If it works, he accepts it, then it will be promoted to the live environment. But all these promotion, you see that application change done here, that application has to be moved to that functionality testing environment, non in the production environment. But who will do that releasing of these changes from one environment to another environment? Which team is going to work it? So here, yes, administrators are working that. Developer, they don't have the permission. Developer, they have the limitation only on the development servers. And testing team, they have those test cases to run it and test cases reports generation. And as expected, it is working it or not. But changes moving that could be infra changes, that could be platform changes, that could be application changes. Who will do that is, yes, engineers working that, administrators are working that. Yeah, so this is about understanding that waterfall approach. What are the different phases in the process model, and which are all the teams are involving that. Is it clear about that, understanding that waterfall approach? Any queries, questions, please? Shall we go ahead to the next, or do you have any queries? Is it clear? Are you following the points, everyone? Okay, good. Yeah, so these are all some important phases that we are trying to understand in the waterfall approach, and the different teams, the teams which are involved in that. But other than business analyst and architects, leave it off it. These teams. So these teams, so they main, they are not going. I mean, they are not required. I mean, they don't. That team that is not required any infra, right, for them. But developers, if they are implementing yes infra, we need to provide to them. Testing team, they are running their test cases for the functionality or the non-functionality is nothing but we need to provide that infra for them, infra on the platform. And the client C is going to run that acceptance testing is nothing but yes, that is required the infra for him. And application is running in the live environment is nothing but with the high availability, failover, scalability, securities, rolling update, rollback. With all that the features, we need to make sure that the application is managing in the live environment. That means operation engineers required here, and some infra is required, platform is required here. Okay, so this is about waterfall, which they were using this initial. So this one we can say the traditional methodology, traditional. But are they using this now in the current market? In the current projects, are they using this waterfall approach? No, they are not using. Why? So major two disadvantages we have here. What are the major two disadvantages is, if you see that client is involving in the requirements phase, and after that he is not involving in all these phases, but then client is coming back in that before releasing to the production. Before releasing to the production, he is coming to the picture and he is verifying that whatever he has given, is it working it or not. So client is not part in the process. That is the main point. Client is not part in the process. That means some communication gaps, understanding about the requirements by the see. requirements collecting by that one team, that is designing by another team, that is implementing by another team, and testing by another team. Different teams. If you have some communication gaps, understanding about the requirements of the functionality, then that functionality is not going to work it here. Or maybe this different functionality has been implemented. Client is not accepting. Client is not accepting is nothing but it is not releasing to the production. It is not released to the production on time is nothing but it is impacted at the budget. So what is the main objective we're talking that on time delivery on budget. But if everything is as expected, it is working, then okay, on time we can deliver it. But client initially he is involving, and before releasing he is involving that again. But if you have some understanding about the functional device, some communication gaps, because of that gaps, the project is not releasing. Our project is going to that's required additional time for it. If it is required some changes, then again go back to that. Wherever it is required, modify here, then do this, do modification, modification, and come back once again to that accept. Then he is going to verify. Now if it is okay, he will accept it and which will be promoted to the production. So because of these communication gaps, because the client is not in the part, that is a main disadvantage. And this is the leading to that some communication gaps, understanding about the requirement side. So that is holding that sometimes the project releases. This is one disadvantage in this waterfall approach. Client is not part in the process. Second disadvantage, what do we have in the waterfall approach is, so these are all going to have that waterfall approach, one after another one. So which will be having the long duration of the cycle. So this is 1 month, then go for the designing some days, then go for the coding. That means there is no small iterations. That is a long duration of the project. So suddenly the one day we will be having this the releasing to the production. But so that is it is not everyday process, all this. So that is one after another process. That is the main disadvantage in the waterfall. It takes long duration of the life cycle. So these are the main two disadvantages which we have from this waterfall approach. So one is client is not part in the process, and second one is long duration of the life cycles. With one stage completes it, next to go to the next process, go to the next stage. Once that completes, go to the next stage. Like this, it takes this long duration of the time. Yeah, finally, if you conclude it, what are the main stages and the teams in the process? So coding, that is developers, and running, that's unit test cases or integration test cases, that is developers and as well as testing team. And system testing, that is our load testing as test testing, that is done by that, yes, again the testing team. UAT environment, that is done by that client side. And finally to the production, that is managing by that operation team. So on the base of these stages, we can call it some environments, standard environments in the process. So what are the environments we can say? Development environment, so that is coding which will be implemented, and developers are involved in that. But a development environment, developers, what are the servers they are using, that which team is they are going to set it, that's set by that operation team. Yes, development environment, two teams are working, that developers and operations backend. Next one is, once development is done, testing environment or staging environment we will call it. But which team is working here? Testing team is working here. But testing team, they are running that test case is nothing but testing servers required, right? But who will set up the testing servers? And the developers, what are the change it has been given, who will move that change to the testing environment? Operation engineers are working that is administrators. And once this has been accepted, then what is the next environment? Important, these environments we need to remember it. So next environment is UAT or pre-prod environments. That is the client is involving here. Client is going to run his test cases, but to run his test cases, here the testing servers required, right, to set up it. UAT servers required. But who will set up the UAT servers? And who will move these changes from that development to testing, testing to the pre-prod environments? Operation engineers are coming to the picture. You see that operation engineer, each and every environment, they are directly or indirectly they are involving that. But directly here we say that development team. So directly here testing team, here UAT team. But backend operation engineers are helping. We should not ignore the operations engineers who are doing the release process, who are involving the release process, releasing the change from the development to testing, testing to the pre-prod, and finally once it has been accepted, then go back to the production environment. So production environment, which team is going to involve in this main? That is operation engineers here. So the overall the process model, if you understand it, yeah, there are all the different stages, but all these stages related, the activities to perform it, there are the different environments that we set up that in the process, and all these environments that is managed by that operation engineers. And each environment is development environment, that is mostly that is getting used by the development teams, and testing environment, testing engineers, UAT environment, that is a client side, and production environment, operation engineers. Are you clear about that? The overall environments, teams, and stages? Is it clear? Any queries, questions, please let me know that. Because all these terminologies that is required for us. Now I have got the clarity about the process. Maybe on the base of the project and the client. So here in environments, okay, so some projects we see that development and testing environments and directly to the production. But in some of that like clients, so more evaluations if they are expecting about it, then the development to the testing, and after the testing there is non-functionality testing environments, then UAT environment, then the production environment. These are all going to change it client to the client. But more environments are adding is nothing but more evaluation is there. That is the meaning of it. More evaluation, that means more quality to bring it, or more test cases, functionality related, non-functionality related, or load testing, UAT testing, security testing environments. So on the base of the client project, the environments are going to change it, but at least what all the environments we are expecting is these are all the 3 or 4 environments we are expecting that. Any project you are working is nothing but maybe some projects 3 environments, maybe some projects 4 environments, maybe another projects like 5 environments or the 6 environments. Okay, so now let's move into that. Now we understand that stages, teams, and the teams who are working in the environment. Now we will talk it mostly on the environment side. Okay, whenever I talk in the development environment, you should remember that that is coding implementation by the development team, and backend developer servers that is managed by the operation engineers. So that's you need to come up with that. Whenever I use the testing environment, okay, operation engineers are setting that which are required to run all the test cases, and test cases that is implemented and run and report generated by that is testing team. So like this, that's the points which we should know it. Yeah, now just if you conclude it, environments, development environment, the which teams are involving, that is developers. So implementing the functionality and make sure about it. They need to, I mean, that is their role is functionality implementation, and that code whatever they are implementing, code quality also they need to make sure it. And as well as code is properly working. That means running their unit test cases and integration test cases. So these are all some role from the development team. They need to implement the code, and whatever the code they are implementing, make sure that the code is in the proper quality, and as well as the code is in the proper working condition. That means there are no errors from that code. These are all some objectives of the developers. But which team is working? Operation engineers who are setting up that development infrastructure. And what are the changes that is required for the development team? The operation teams, the backend, any storage is required, networks required, or the hardware resources which are required. That is setting up that by the operations engineers. Or if it the database is the database administrators, they take the help of it. Yeah, this is about two teams and a two teams role in that development environment. Next, testing environment. So testing team is involving that obviously. So what is the main role is implementing the test cases to test all the functionality of that application which are implemented in the development environment, and as well as bringing that the better quality of that application and doing that approval, promoting to the next environment, or if the quality is not good, then stopping the process here itself. They don't approve it. If they don't approve is nothing but, so what is like issues or what are like why they are not approving, then the like development management team and testing management team, they need to sit together, and what are the like actions that can be taken to bring the quality, they need to evaluate it, and they need to bring back that's process. But testing team, they are using, they are running the test case is nothing but testing servers required. But which team is going to set up that? That is operations team, setting up that testing infra, and what are the changes that they have done in the development environment, then applying that changes to the testing servers. So then pre-prod environment here, clients side, that's the testing. So they are going to run their implementing their test cases, and they are running test cases, and they are going to verify the quality of that application as expected, it is working it or not. And if everything is okay, they do that approval. But here background backend, who is which team is setting up this environment? Operation engineers. So who are setting up that UAT infrastructure and moving that the application. Once testing team they have confirmed here is nothing but that change, application change or infra change, whatever it is required for that change, moving to the pre-prod environment, that is done by that operation engineers. And finally, the prod environment, that is operation teams are going to play important role here. So working with the reliability features, load balancing, securities, failovers, scaling features. With these objectives, they are going to work with that here with the performance and tuning and monitoring, troubleshooting with these kind of objectives. Yeah, this picture we need to have that in our mind whenever we are talking about it, the DevOps. So here we never include anywhere about the DevOps. But here if you just talk it operations, 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 operations. Yes, we are going to perform that as a DevOps engineer. We have the two keywords, DevOps, development, operations. Yes, we are going to play that this kind of the role, operations engineer's role. But not only that, we are going to perform that some development activities. But what are those development? What are those operations? We'll come back. But overall, before going to talk about the DevOps engineer role, we should know that's the project, the stages, what are the different environments and which teams are involved in that, and each team their roles and responsibilities. Okay, so that's about the waterfall approach. But after the 30 years of this market, if you just observe that this waterfall approach, what's happened is what we are doing is not working. So what are the statistics that is showing that is in 2009, that's statistics if you just observe that, because after that, like which has come up with that another methodology. This is the before 10 years, 15 years. We are trying to understand how they were facing that issues in the market. So if you just observe that 24% of the projects are getting failed. Project on what is the objective? On time delivery, on budget. But because of on-time delivery point of view and the client, what are the proposals we have given it, and we didn't make that successful of it. Because of that, 24% of the projects are getting failed, and 44% of the projects are the challenged. Challenged is nothing but some challenges in that's while delivering that application with the client approvals, maybe extending the project durations or extending the budget which has been allocated for it. So 44% of the challenges, and on-time delivery on budget only one-third of the applications. But what about that remaining two-third of the application? Some projects are the challenged, some projects were getting failed. So these are all the statistics that is showing about it. They are using that the methodology, management team, they are using that to execute all these stages and coordinating that all these teams, that is development teams, operation teams, the clients, testing team, but they are not able to deliver the project on time and with on budget. You see that average cost to overrun 45%. That means if they plan it 100 rupees, the project is going to end up with 145 rupees. That means additional budget. Time overrun. If they think it that the project duration is 1 hour, but within the 1 hour they are not completing that, it is extending that 1.5 years almost. And functionality delivered on an average only 2/3 percentage. 1/3 percentage of that application are not able to deliver that with the functionality whatever we discussed or whatever we have committed to the client. What's happening that in this methodology? What's happening that? Already we are understanding, right? Client is not in the process model. That is one disadvantage. And another disadvantage, long duration of the life cycle. That means testing of that application or releasing that application to the production, some long duration they will be having that. Yeah, finally, if you just observe that, what are the delivery challenges that we have, it has been addressed is the requirements to the design to that implementation to the testing, and finally releasing to the production. These are all some important phases. But which teams are working? Customers, they are giving the requirements, and the requirements getting understood by the development teams and testing teams, right? Yeah, requirements, that development team, they should understand the requirements and they are working on the implementation side. And testing team, they need to evaluate the requirements and they need to implement the test cases to test that application which is getting implemented by the development team. So these both teams, they should know properly the requirements. But operation engineers, they don't have that much on the requirement side. They don't need that the expert on the functionality side. But the developers and testers, they should know the coding and implementing the test cases, and as well as that the functionality understanding is also important for them. And finally, another team, operations engineers. Yeah, these are all the phases and they're all the main teams, the overall. But in this process, what's happening, that is why the projects are getting failed, is some communication gaps, understanding about the requirements by the development and testing teams. And as well as once a developer, he raises the hand, my code is ready or my functionality is ready, then the developer's code required to release to the testing team, testing servers, and testing team, they need to run the test cases and they need to bring that the better quality of it and they need to approve it, and once it is approved, release that's next to the UAT environment, deploy it, test it. UAT environment deployed and run the test cases. Once it is approved, deploy that application to the production servers and run the test cases. Who is doing that? The release process, that is operation engineers. But if you have some communication gaps between the teams during the release process, that is going to have the impact on the delivery of the project. If the delivery is impacted, then obviously the budget also impacted. So these are all some important points that's which we should understand it. So the communication gaps are the very, overcoming that, all these communication gaps are the very important in the process model. We have the better teams and management team who is coordinating all these teams. But even though project is not getting successful on time and on budget with this waterfall approach. Are you following the points? Now we are concluding that understanding the requirements by the development and testing teams, we have some communication gaps. So because of these gaps, the products are getting delivered lately. On time, we are not able to deliver it. And not only that, during the release process, that is development to that testing environment, testing to that UAT environment, UAT to the production environment, that is a release process. But during the release process, infra we have the dependency, platform we have the dependency, and application data we have the dependency. But application is implementing by the development team and that is releasing by the operation engineers. But if there is no proper communication between these two teams, that is impacting that's on the delivery of the project. So that impact is going to leading that on the on-time delivery or on budget. Yes, these are all the main challenges during whatever it has been addressed with like waterfall approach. These are all some main challenges. But how do you overcome these challenges? So that is the next thing. That's which we are understanding about it. Yeah, so what are the challenges that we have this during the functionality implementation? That is between that requirements understanding by the development teams and testing team. What are the challenges we have and how do you overcome the challenges? So these points, that's we will continue this tomorrow. Today we understand what all the teams are involving, what are the different stages and the process models, and what are the different environments we have in the process, and in each environment which teams are involving that, and what is their main role in that environment. But if they are following that the better team, the process models, but still that waterfall model is having some challenges during that, the functionality understanding wise, we have the challenge between the developers and testing with the requirements. And not only that, during the release time between the development testing team and operation teams also we have the communication gaps. Yes, how do we overcome these communication gaps? That is the next thing which we are going to understand it with the agile process model and with the DevOps process model. So two process models we are going to talk at that. Now it is not managing that with one methodology. The management team is coming up with that agile process model and with the DevOps process model. What is that agile and what is that that's like a DevOps process model and how that is helping? And as a DevOps engineer, the principles of the DevOps methodology, we need to understand it and we need to work it, coordinating about it, all these teams in the process model. That is a new role which has been introduced in the market. That's role, what exactly that role and how do you work with that role? So we'll come back to that. Is it clear about that? So these points I would like to mention today about that understanding that's up to this. So why the projects were getting failed. But these gaps, how do you overcome that? That is the latest methodologies. So in the current, if you are joining to that any project, yes, whatever the methodologies we are going to talk it to overcome the requirements and the development and testing teams, the gaps, and as well as development and testing team and operation teams gaps. So those methodologies are the currently running in the projects. And to handle these methodologies, separate role has been introduced. That means separate team has been introduced in the project. That is DevOps engineers role. But what is exactly the DevOps and how this role is helping? That's we will talk it tomorrow. So in the tomorrow demonstration, we will conclude it about the DevOps.